Ignition sequence start. All engines are running.
We have taken tremendous steps.
We choose to go to the moon before this decade is out.
We have achieved the earth-shaking, the breathtaking, the groundbreaking,
One small step for man.
and left a mark in the heavens. Our successes build one upon another and amplify what is possible.
The dawn of Orion.
It's time we take the next great leap.
Hey guys, my name is Ismael Trevino and this is the Millennial Way Show. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much for following in all our social media platforms. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Bob Richards and he is the co-founder and CEO of Moon Express. Mr. Richards, thank you very much for being with all the audience of the Millennial Way Show.
Happy to be here.
I want to make a little recap of who is our guest for the people that is connected right now. He's a Canadian-born space entrepreneur. He's the founder of the International Space University, also the co-founder of Singularity University. He studied aerospace, industrial engineering in Ryerson University, also physics and astronomy at the University of Toronto, and space science at Cornell. That's amazing. Welcome, Mr. Richards.
Well, thank you very much.
Pleasure and an honor.
Happy to be here.
Neil Armstrong once said, I think we're going to the moon because it's by nature of the human being to face challenges. It's by the nature of his deep inner soul. We're required to do these things just as salmon swim upstream. What do you think about that?
I think that's so true. And we are explorers by nature. I think there's a genetic predisposition to exploration. It helps us survive as a species. If you stay in one place too long, you don't survive. So our exploration into space, as we humans move out into space, will become a multi-planetary civilization. And we'll become a spacefaring civilization. And this ultimately is what we need as a species to survive.
You said in a recent interview that us humans, we abandoned the moon between 1969 and 1972, and only 6 people walked the moon and they just suddenly abandoned it. Why? What happened?
So the Apollo program in the 60s was a product of superpower politics. It was a different day and age. It was they called it the Cold War. The then Soviet Union and the United States were locked in this deadly embrace of amassing nuclear weapons, which would have destroyed the world many times over had they been released. It was a horrible time. But at the same time, those same missiles that would carry weapons of mass destruction could also carry humanity to the stars. So there is this tension between the exploration of space for peaceful purposes and the escalations of tensions here on this planet Earth. The Apollo program was about a race to the moon. While the United States was creating the technology to put humans on the moon, so was the Soviet Union. So was this race of superpower politics to proving I'm better than the other guy.
But just to conquer the moon, just go there and that's it.
To plant a flag to say we did it and we beat the other guy. And the reason that it was abandoned so quickly in only 3 years, it took 10 years to get there and only 3 years later we abandoned it, because the race was won. There was not a purpose for the moon that was realized other than to prove we could get there. Today, we know that the moon is part of our Earth system. It's like an 8th continent. It has enormous resources that we can utilize on planet Earth and our future in space, and it's a stepping stone to the rest of the solar system and the stars.
We found in 2009, I think, that there's water on the moon.
A lot of water on the moon.
Now, how the equations change with that amazing discovery, and what happened since 2009 to nowadays, more than 10
And why
years?
is it important, right? So the way I grew up with the moon, the whole generation thought it was a dead, dry rock. They thought it was just a dust bowl. But we've recently discovered water in the moon, and why is that important? Because water is like the oil of the solar system. Not only does it support us for living and for drinking, for creating food, but it's also because water is made of oxygen and hydrogen. That's also rocket fuel. That's what makes rockets go. So now the moon is a gas station in the sky. We can utilize that water for going elsewhere in the solar system and for making the economics of the resources of the moon profitable for companies like Moon Express.
So basically, the moon will become like a gas station to go
To other
further?
places. It'll be the water on the moon makes the economics of the resources in the moon viable to go get them, because you don't have to take all the fuel with you. Imagine you had to travel the United States from West Coast to East Coast, and there were no gas stations. You'd have to take all the fuel with you, and imagine the size of the vehicle you would need. If there's water in the moon, there's fuel in the moon, we can refuel when we get there. So it changes the economics of the resources of the moon and of the entire, it opens the solar system for humanity.
Besides water, what else can we find in the moon?
Lots of stuff. So the moon and the earth were born together. So all of the stuff that we depend on as a technical civilization on earth, all the platinum group metals, all the precious metals, all the gold, and everything that we depend on as a technological society is on the moon, because it was formed at the same time. Everything that we use here on earth came from outer space, right? So it was all the valuable metals, gold, platinum, it was delivered by asteroids in the early days of Earth's evolution. If you look at the moon, what do you see?
Craters.
Craters. Every crater
Huge craters.
Huge craters. Little craters, huge craters. Every crater is a scar of an asteroid impact. It's all still there. So the moon has been accumulating through billions of years all of these resources near the surface of the moon, just waiting for us to go and utilize them. So we don't have to destroy the Earth and impact our biosphere by raping the Earth for all its resources. We can use the resources of the moon where there's no biosphere, there's no people, there's no politics. It's just a resource for planet Earth to live peacefully in space.
You and your team believe in redefining the possible and expanding Earth economic and social sphere to what you call our eighth continent.
Yes.
The moon. How is that?
So like the Americas were the new continent to the Europeans. It was across an ocean that was difficult to get across. And once you got there, what do? Well, look what's happened with the exploration of the Americas. We have a whole new civilization. The moon is like an eighth continent. If you look at the land mass of the moon, it's about the same as the Americas put together. So if you take North America and South America, the land mass, that's about the size of the moon. So there's a lot of territory there. And the ocean that we need to cross to get there is the ocean of space. It's not that far. It's only a few days, kind of like crossing the Atlantic.
So what kind of businesses, opportunities can we see in the, I don't know how many years, because I don't want to take
I think a number. It's right now. It's in the next couple of years. We're at this cusp. This is like Moon 2.0. It's like Moon 1.0 was Apollo. Now it's Moon 2.0. And it's about, first of all, exploring the moon. So there's the business case that Moon Express has, which is a transportation company to begin with. Just like SpaceX and other companies deliver cargo to space, we deliver cargo to the moon. So we utilize rockets, other people's rockets, to get to Earth orbit. And then our robotic spacecraft take things to the moon. So we are partnered with NASA, and NASA is going to pay us to deliver science instruments to the moon, just like it pays SpaceX to deliver cargo to the station. Once we get to the moon, then we can start exploring it for resources. Once we discover where the resources are, in what form, and how much, and how to process them and use them, then all of these business opportunities open up for companies like Moon Express and others to use those resources to benefit planet Earth and for expanding civilization in space.
So regarding the US, Moon Express is the only company that is actually working on that? Because I understand there's Israeli team, the Japanese team, China, I think already
everybody's
moved.
Going to the moon all of a sudden.
Exactly.
Everybody. So that's because people are realizing the moon is important. It's important to our future. It's important to our culture. And it's now it's now within reach. You don't have to be a superpower. We know China just landed on the moon.
Correct.
But you don't have to be China. Israel is going to try to land on the moon just next month. India has been there with orbiters. It'll try to do a lander. But Moon Express is a private company. And there are other private companies that can reach the moon now because it's within reach of technology and within financing of the private sector. You don't have to be a superpower anymore. Just like CubeSats, these small, tiny little spacecraft, completely democratized access to Earth orbit. Now high school kids can send spacecraft to space with CubeSats. We want to do that to the moon. So we want to democratize access to the moon so everybody can go and try to do things there.
So I don't know if this is a very ABC question, but who owns the moon?
That's a great question. So humanity struggled with that question in the 60s, the same era that Apollo was born in those superpower politics and Cold War era. the United States and the Soviet Union, even though they were antagonists, got together and signed a treaty that 100 other countries have since signed that dominates today how the human species behaves in space. It talks about we're not going to put, we the human species, no country will put weapons of mass destruction in space. We're not going to appropriate other territories. We're not going to put military bases on the moon or anywhere else. So it says it has contradictory philosophies in that no nation or nobody can appropriate territory in the moon. So in that sense, nobody owns the moon. But it also says everybody has equal access and use of the moon. So that means everybody owns the moon. So nobody owns the moon and everyone owns the moon.
Yeah, but if, for example, China arrived to the pole, south pole of the moon, so that means the US or Israel can arrive to that same location?
What it means is that nobody can plant a flag and say this is ours, but they also have a right to be there and not to be interfered with. So it's not unlike the gold rush where there's not a lot of law, but there's a lot of principle. And the principle is if you peacefully go to the moon, land there and are conducting peaceful operations, nobody should be able to interfere with you. Just like if you're fishing in the international waters, you have a right to be there. You don't own the water and you don't own the fish, but you have a right to fish and you have a right for people not to interfere with you. And if you catch the fish, you own the fish. So likewise, if you're on the moon, then nobody should interfere with you. So getting there first is important. Not just getting there first, but continuing to use it. So use it or lose it. If you land on the moon and don't go back for 10 years, don't be surprised if somebody else lands right by you and starts doing what you were doing.
The strategic plan of Moon Express, you have three
initial missions,
correct?
three initial missions.
Exactly.
But we have an ongoing plan for continuous missions to the moon. But our first plan is to land on the moon, be the first private company to land on the moon in 2020. And then
do you have like a specific date of going or not yet?
No, well, we haven't really talked about that yet, but think about
You can do it with our audience.
Okay,
They'll be delighted.
here it is, July 2020.
You got it, guys. You got it. July 2020.
July 2020. How's
July
that?
2020.
How's that?
That's amazing.
All right,
Thank you
we'll
very
try
much
to
for
do that. You're
Exclusive.
welcome. Exclusive. And so we want to land on the moon. It's a hard thing to do, and we'll learn how to do that. But then we want to, in the second mission, go to the South Pole. Learn how to...
We're trying to just arrive a few...
China went to the far side of the moon, the other side of the moon from Earth, which is hard to do. And in the next mission, China is going to try to go to the South Pole and bring samples back.
And why is that so attractive?
It's really important to... It's really hard to analyze the samples with robots. There are much more capable labs, and people on Earth, the scientists, can actually look at the samples, prove what type of minerals are in them, look for maybe helium-3 and other minerals, rare earth elements, and find out how the water is stored within the dirt on the moon. That's really important. We're going to try to do that too. So by 2023, we want to land on the South Pole of the moon. We want to prospect. We want to bring samples back to Earth. And we as a private company, not a country, will own those materials and will make them available for scientific research, but we'll also monetize them, right? We'll sell them. We'll sell them to jewelry companies. We'll sell them as keepsakes and novelties so everybody can have a piece of the moon. Right now, it's illegal for you and I to own a piece of the moon. I think it's illegal. You and I can't. They're national treasures. The moon rocks that were brought back by Apollo astronauts are national treasures in the United States. You can look at them at a museum, but you can't own them. Right. So when we bring it back, do you want a piece of the moon?
For sure.
Okay, I'll bring you back a piece of the moon. Is that a deal? All right.
It's on the record, my friend.
It's on record.
It's on the record. It's happening. Thank you very much. Bob Richards, when do you want to go to the moon?
Personally?
Yes.
I used to think it was a crazy idea that I would be able to go to space. I know I could go to space. I could just buy a ticket pretty soon. So I think going to the moon is absolutely possible for me. 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
You mentioned in a recent interview that in the next 10 years, we're going to have the capacity to look to the moon and see little lights. Those little lights are going to be robotic lights, or actually there's going to be people there? They're
going to be a combination. In 10 years, there'll be lights on the moon, and that'll be robotic installations and outposts, maybe even some people. And I think it'll be a complete change of perspective for the generations of young people that are born, that look up and see lights on the moon, and they will know fundamentally that we're part of a multi-world species. It'll be completely different from the children that look up and see nothing on the moon. It'll be a whole new future for us.
So you are and you and your team are redefining the concept of the honeymoon by itself.
Yes. In the future, the honeymoon will be a honeymoon on the moon.
Mr. Richards, I know that you have to go, and we really appreciate your time. Last question. We always finish our interviews with this top of advice to all our followers that are watching you here, that are these entrepreneurs fascinated about the outer space, fascinated about taking risks in this kind of voyages.
Yes.
Which will be your message to empower them and
Can I talk to
follow
them?
their dreams? Please.
Because anything is possible. Anything is possible. And don't let anybody tell you your dreams are not worthwhile. Every dream is possible, and you as a human being can do anything in this world. You have a supercomputer in your back pocket. You have all the potential ahead of you. Take on a big, bold adventure and make the world a better place.
Well, guys, there you have it. The one and only Bob Richards, CEO and co-founder of Moon Express. Mr. Richards, it was a pleasure and an honor.
Awesome.
And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.